Item 7, the top 10 corporate risks assessment, and that's in the hands of Mr. Adey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is brought to you again. The last time you considered it was November last year. We have not, or don't believe that there is need to make any changes to the key risk issues that you considered in November last year. However, there has been some rewording following feedback from councillors last time this issue was considered. Obviously the individual sheets, however, associated with the risks have been updated. So I don't think there's anything I can add, but look forward to your feedback on these. Thank you.
Mr. Adey, are there any questions at this stage? No. Is there any feedback then in relation to those risks? It's an update, as Mr. Adey said, of the last few years. Every 6 months we go through this process. No. Oh, Councillor Emersval. Yes, sorry, Councillor Emersval. And then Councillor Scott. Is it a question or is it? You'd like Councillor Scott to go first? Right.
And work through each of the risks,
Well,
we're just going to adopt it because that was what I was waiting and
Okay,
move on to
you
the
would
paper to
prefer
the
to do
risks.
that? That's fine. I was just trying to sound out what people were thinking doing
I
about
just want
that.
to bring up something.
All right, well, I will go through risk by risk, if you like.
Yeah,
Okay.
with it probably relates to issue 1 and issue 2, but particular to
Okay.
issue 2, and that's under the risk mitigation that the Narrora water storage pre-feasibility study has been done. And I somewhat accidentally, I meant to send it just to Fenton, and I sent an email to all of you saying perhaps we should be looking at the Narrora progressing that, because if we don't do it, what's the risk of not doing it? I think here, when we've gone through the drought this summer, Madam Chair, and we have watched what's happened to the horticulturists at the bottom end of the Narrora catchment, and the disaster that a number of them have gone through, and the implication, I know that with Watties, they had to cut their irrigation by such that they took a choice as to which crops they would irrigate and which they didn't, and that meant at the end of the day loss of jobs. That there is quite a risk around not being able to deliver the existing water, considering that we're going through a catchment change, plan change consideration at the moment. We've put that one on hold. I think that either we should bring it to the fore or we should cover it as a risk of not proceeding with the feasibility. I think there's some really big economic risks around not proceeding at the moment.
Thank you. Mr. Newman.
Oh, thanks, Madam Chair and Councillor Scott. I think you raised a good point. I guess the options the council has is you certainly look at it as a risk in this paper of not proceeding, and that'd be the way to treat it in this paper. In addition to that, it may well be a subject that you wish to debate a wee bit further through the annual plan process in terms of sequencing and timing. From a management perspective, it's a resourcing issue at this stage. In other words, to be able to progress into an economic assessment and full feasibility around the Narrora requires a resourcing commitment, which is not just financial, it's actually the people that can do the job. And I would expect that at least from the people, the team who can do the job, that capacity is going to be a lot freer, probably by about early 2014 than it is right now. What it's worth.
Councillor Scott.
I ask some further questions around this because I'm aware of the plan change, the timing of the consents in that catchment. It was only a year or two behind the Tuki ones. And there are councillors on that tank strategy group looking at the plan change for that catchment. But my concern is not only the economic impacts that we've suffered in the last drought, but going forward could see again. It's also the risk to not having a mitigation measure should the science and the public feeling towards minimum flow levels actually see a reduction in water available to irrigators there. So I think there are quite some big risk factors there that we should be monitoring and keeping our eye on. Can we sort of address it from those two angles, from not mitigating
What we can do to mitigate.
minimum flows and the economic risks through it?
Thank you. Have you taken that on board, and it'll come back to council, won't it, with
Yes.
some amendments? Thank you. Are there any others relating to 1 and 2? Councillor Emersville. Is this a question or a comment? Just want to clarify.
This is in relation to, I think there is still, and this has been borne up by the last few months, there is still a risk that is missing, that has gone down on the list, which is, of course, is climate change. And as Mr. Adey...
Councillor, I'm happy to take that one as a general comment later, but at the moment I'm just going through each risk issue to pick up any of the questions or comments
All right, I'll
relating to
talk
each
about
one.
that later.
Is that
Thank
all
you.
right, if you just put it aside as a thought at the end about whether there are any other risks we should be adding? Right, Councillor Gilbertson.
On the first one, improved focus of the regional land care scheme. Part of the regional land care scheme is planting poplar poles. Are there any...
Excuse me, can you just tell me what
Issue
exactly?
1 water quality.
Issue 1 water
halfway down,
quality,
risk
okay,
mitigation.
yes, got you.
As
Yes.
part of that process, is there any surveys done as to the survivability of the poplar poles? Because it seems to me a risk, because mostly up to 50% or 100% of poplar poles die, so there's a risk that people stop the uptake because they die. But do we have any information on the survivability?
Okay, well,
Yes. Well, there are post-planting surveys done of poles. I don't have the results with me, but at some stage, yes, no problem.